Step of this exercise is to construct a warehouse that is 8 meters wide, 15 meters long, and 3 meters high. The wall should be 0.3 meters thick, and there should be doors in the center of each end that are 2 by 3 meters. First thing we'll do is launch SketchUp. So it'll take just a moment for it to open, and it opens in the lower left hand corner of my screen, so I'm going to drag it to the top corner and then enlarge my workspace so I can see what I'm doing. And it opens with a character here close to the origin, which I'm going to select using my select tool and press delete to remove. Now, first thing I'm going to do is put some reference lines in the drawing that define the center of the building, because the doors are located in the center and later I'll be locating some equipment in the center of the building. So I will come over here and get my tape measure tool and click on the green axis and come out parallel to the red axis, creating a guideline that should be in the center of my warehouse, which will be 4 meters. So I'll just type 4, and I've got a line that defines the center line along the long axis. I'll click on the red line, I'll come out. The warehouse is 15 meters long, so I'll make this one 7.5, so it'll be in the center. And you can see that when I create the triangle, or when I create my warehouse, it's only part of it's going to be in the field of view. So I'll get my pan tool, and I'm just going to kind of slide this over to the side of the screen here so I'll be able to see the whole warehouse as I construct it. And I may want to adjust my perspective a little more as I go. Next thing I'll do is get my rectangle tool to create the rectangle, or the floor plan, or the footprint for the warehouse. I can do this one of two ways. I can either come over here and click on the origin and come out and define a space that's 8 by 15, escape, or I can come to the center of the building, and instead of pulling out from the corner, what I can do is I can press the Option key, and when I do that, you'll notice that the rectangle at the end of my pen shifts from one corner to the center. So if I click on the center, now as I construct my rectangle, it will grow in both directions from the center point. So now all I got to do is type 8,15, and I got my footprint for the warehouse. And again, you can see it's not quite centered, so I'm going to zoom out just a little bit so I can see the whole warehouse. And I'll move it up a little bit. Sorry, it's pan, not zoom. And I'll zoom out just a little bit. And I'm going to rotate it up just a little bit so I get a little better view of the floor, what it looks like. And I've got some of my layers windows open here. By default, let's move those out of the way. Good. Now, next thing I want to do is create my walls. And to do that, I'm just basically going to draw a line around the floor plan here, the width of the wall. And I'll use my push-pull tool to create the walls. The easiest way to draw a line around something is to use the offset tool, which is this tool right here. You see I put my selection tool over, it says offset. So I'll click on that, and I'll just click on the border here of my floor, or actually the floor plan, I guess. And I'll pull it out, and I'll type 0.3. And that gives me a line around here that's 0.3 meters from the original rectangle. And of course, that's the width that was specified for the wall. Next thing I need to do to make my walls is just get the push-pull tool, click on the imprint of the floor, or of the walls on the ground, and I can just pull this up. I'll type this time I'll type 3, not 0.3, and I'll get my walls. So far, so good. Next thing I could do is use the rectangle tool and put a roof on this, but I'm going to defer that for later because I want to be able to see inside the building, and it'll just be a little bit of a matter of convenience. So I can always add the roof. There's no urgency to add it right now. So next thing I'll do is create my door. I'll get the rectangle tool and I'll come down here and click on the intersection of the front of the building with the excuse me, with the guideline, center guideline. Click on that, I'll just come all the way up to the top, and we said this was going to be 2 by 3. Now I could either come over here, make this 1 by 3 and do the same thing on the other side, or I can just go over here and go ahead and make it 2 by 3, and then get my move tool, click on the rectangle, and just simply move it to the left here 1 meter, and that will center it in the wall. Now to make this, to open this door, I'll get my push-pull tool again, and I will just simply click on the surface and push it in 0.3, and I'm left with just a line filling, or surface filling the space around the door, and I'll just delete that, and I'll delete the line on top, and that gives me the door. And I can do the same thing on the other end. So let me just tilt this up a little bit so I can see it, and also I'll zoom out just a little bit. Oops. Out, not in. I have to tilt this up a little bit more so I can see the center line. This looks good. I'll get my rectangle tool again. This one I'll start from the inside going out. Come up here. Again, I'll make this 2 by 3. Good. Get my move tool. I'm sorry, my push-pull tool. Click on the surface. Oh, no. Let me back off. I was right the first time. I need to get my move tool and center it. So let me grab this and I'll move it sideways 1 meter. Okay, now I'll get my push-pull tool and take out the door space. Push that back, 0.3. And we'll remove the surface there. And voila. That door's in both ends. Okay, so that pretty much completes the first part of this exercise. The last thing I have to do is to make this a group and put it in a separate layer. As we've said before, we always construct our objects in the 0 layer, make them a group, and then we assign them to another layer so we can hide them when we don't want them to make our drawing too busy. So I'll get the selection tool, I'll come up here, and it's important when you do the selection that you select from left to right, otherwise you're going to, the selection will include everything that just intersects that box, and we'll end up with our guidelines in the group. We don't want to do that. So I've got everything selected here. I'll come back, I'll right click on the building, get the drop down menu and select make group. It's now made it a group. I'll come over here to my layers window. I'm going to create a new layer, and I'm going to name it warehouse. Okay. Now my group is still selected, so if it's not, just click on it again and come over here to the entity info, and if the entity info is not showing, all you got to do is right click and entity info is right at the top of the drop down menu, and you'll see here it shows that this is in layer 0. If I click on the drop down, I have the option of moving it to the warehouse layer, which I've done. And now if I go back to my layers window, I can uncheck the warehouse for visible, and it disappears. And now I'm ready to construct the next part of my assignment.